Mel, welcome to the show.
Oh my God, Jess, it's
We're
so good to have you here. I mean, it's so cool to be here on the show again.
Yeah, I actually should say welcome back to the show. So I just told you you're one of only two guests that have been on twice. So that is very special. I'm excited to have you back.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Don't mind
Yeah.
my dog barking in the background.
No, we love dogs. I mean, mine is sleeping. Your two are probably playing,
When you
but we
when you
welcome
get
dogs.
a 13-week-old puppy, it's just sheer mayhem constantly.
Love it. All right, let's dive in. So, truly, the thing that I'm most excited about is your brand new book that's coming out. So, I'm not going to hold back. We're not going to like wait to the end of the episode. We're talking about this because this book is a game changer. And I was um, lucky enough, fortunate enough to be able to read it before it even came to print. So, I got
Yeah.
to see the insides of this book, Build Your Money Machine, How to Get Your Money to Work Harder for You Than You Did for It. I mean, the title alone gives me goosebumps. It's so good because here's the deal with Mel. Mel's the real deal, which you heard in the intro as a CPA. He's worked in this industry for so long, financial advising for people. He's an entrepreneur. He spoke on some of the biggest stages, has the most incredible network of friends. I mean, your speed dial is like the top of the top of the top. You write this book, and in the book, my favorite thing about it is, of course, what I love so much about you, the way that you teach, because you teach through story. And your storytelling just makes everything so digestible. And with all due respect, Mel, I think your industry is not the most interesting for a lot of people.
No, they're not.
At least not for me. I'm not really like a numbers girl. I love money and I love my money to work for me and I love what my money can allow me to do. But when it comes to like spreadsheets and taxes and accounting and all these things, I can't help but do that whine, right? I'm like, oh, but you just have such a unique way of teaching where you use frameworks and visuals, you bring in story. So I want you to actually start with a story first, if you'd be open to it. And I want to hear
Yeah.
about your earliest memory that you have around money or what you heard about money, something that impacted you to become the guy that you are today.
So this is important because so my early stories memory is about 5 years old, and it literally is the first time I had a chance to see my dad cry. And now my father, I'm a son of an immigrant family. My dad came here at 17 years old with nothing. Went to school, became an engineer. So we grew up with stuff, but we didn't grow up with stuff. I mean, we weren't living in luxury. We had enough. Um, in the same house all our lives and everything. But this, to me, as a 5 year old, I was looking at my dad, and he's this, tower of power. It was just this, and all of a sudden, I see my hero start crying, and it was my mom and him having a conversation, a heated conversation, but no idea the the specifics. But I understood that it had to do with money.
Yeah.
And I hear my dad say, I feel like I'm disappointing the people I love the most. And so I took that in to mean that, oh, if you don't make money, you're going to disappoint the people you love. So I got really focused on money and everything. And I think that most of our money lessons, because we don't get formal education, because we've been raised in an environment, it's taboo, you don't talk about it. Most of our money lessons are caught, not taught.
Mm.
And unknowingly, I took that in. Well, we can fast forward a lot of years, and I'm a single full-time dad, and my son is 5.5, 6 years old, and I am building my business. I'm on the treadmill. I am running. Things are going and everything, and I feel good. And next thing I know, Jeremy comes running and he says, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. And so I kneel down to grab this picture, and what do I see? I see myself standing in front of two computer screens with a phone in each ear and one on the desk ringing.
Mm.
And this was a mirror into my soul from a 6-year-old that sat back, and it would have been easy for me to say, hey, we need the money, we need the profits, we need all of that. But if a 6-year-old understood what profits were, he literally would have looked me in the eye and said, Dad, I don't need your profits, I need your presence. So here I was thinking back on what happened with my dad at 5 years old, and Jeremy's about the same age. And I was making the money. Back then, I thought if you don't make money, you disappoint the people you love.
Right.
This time, I'm making the money and I'm disappointing the people I love. And I said, there has to be something different. There has to be a way to make the money to take care of the things that matter the most and to live a rich life, not a wealthy life, a life that's full of experiences where I have a chance to take care of the greatest gift that I was given at that time, and that was to be a parent, to be a father, and I could have all the money in the bank, but if I failed at that, then I failed at life.
Was that the moment that you really kind of shifted the way that you were approaching what you were doing for your day-to-day work and how you approached money and what you wanted to teach?
That was the pivot of the obsession to try
Yeah.
and figure out, okay, there has to be a way to do business, to do money, and to do life differently so they can coexist. That this idea of balance that people talk about and work-life balance, all that, I think it's a myth. You sit back and you say, I'm going to live, 8, 10 hours a day in my work bucket. Then I'm going to come home and put a different identity on them in my family bucket or my hobby bucket. And it creates conflict. It creates friction. It's not balance we need.
Yeah.
It's harmony we need. And harmony, as I kind of went through it, I said it came from intent. And how can I be intentional with time? How can I be intentional with money? And how can I be intentional with my life? And that's where I started to say, okay, is there a way to do this? And this is the biggest element that came out of it, a way to separate my ability to earn from the efforts to earn it. And that's what kind of gave birth to this idea of the money machine.
Did you have to do some mindset work first before you got to that? Because that sentence that you just said, this idea of effort and earning is transformational. It's a huge sentence. But I'm curious because so many of us carry money stories, right? And maybe unknowingly, subconsciously, you were carrying this money story from the age of 5. And all these years you carried this story. And you were almost lucky enough to have this experience with Jeremy that was a mirror to hold up to you and say, like, wait a minute, hold on, pause. But in that moment, after you realized something needed to change, did you have to do some like rewiring of your own money beliefs? And do you help people with that? What does that look like?
Yeah. So, and that was not the only story. That was the earliest story. I had plenty of money stories around it, around that stuff. As I started to look at it and investigate and say, what else are the things that I think around money? Now I started to understand that there's a difference between facts and interpretations. And what drives us most times are the interpretations, because in the interpretations is where we find the emotions. So fear, guilt, shame, okay, worth, all of those things are in the interpretation, not in the facts. The fact was I saw a conversation with mom and dad. The fact was my dad was upset. Everything else was an interpretation.
Right.
It's the interpretations that get us in trouble. So what I realized is that, and I call it the money story dynamic, is no matter what those stories are, and we all have them. And I've worked with people that have little money and just starting out to billionaires. They all have them. Doesn't matter. Okay.
We're human.
Yeah. I mean, and so the key is, are they controlling you?
Stories.
And if they're yeah, yeah. And if they're not controlling you, great. Because I still struggle with some of it, but I can identify it, I'm aware of it, and I know how to deal with it. One of the easiest ways to navigate is I'll have my folks will write down all the money stories, the money beliefs, the money things that they think about, whether it's, money's dirty, it's for the greedy, wealthy people are greedy, all those things, and say, whatever it is, and little innocent statements like money doesn't grow on trees, that's a statement that's cliche.
Mhm.
But what we take in could be money is difficult. It's hard to get. It's hard to keep. And when we give those interpretations to it, we take it on as an identity.
Yeah.
That identity defines the behaviors. The behaviors define what I call a money set. So we have to separate the facts from the interpretation. The way you do it, the easiest way is take the situation. Let's take a situation that was a big situation for me that happened later in life in 2005. I got involved in an investment that I thought was a good investment. Turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned. Okay, 1/3 of everything was gone. Me and two other friends, we lost over $4.5 million, to give you the magnitude of numbers.
Oh.
Now here I am, a CPA.
Right. You're the money guy.
Yeah, and I'm the guy that is supposed to keep people safe. I'm the guy that's supposed to consult and help and guide. So what do you think my stories were? The stories were, things like, you're a loser, give up your license, stop what you're doing because you're not qualified to do it. All those stories were interpretations of what happened.
Right.
And had I lived in those stories, we wouldn't be having the conversation. Book wouldn't be written. I wouldn't be out speaking. I wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be at the level I'm at financially. But what I spent some time doing, there was two things that got me out of it. One, I had a why beyond the money, and the why was Jeremy. And I realized he's watching me during this time of adversity, and he's going to take a lesson from it. Do you curl up in a ball and watch the storm pass, or do you fight back? So that was the one thing. The second was to sit back and say, let me separate the interpretation, all the stuff I was telling myself, from the facts. The way I figured it out is I said, let's just watch what happened through a camera lens with earplugs in.
Yeah.
I cannot hear the voices. I cannot hear what is going on. All I can do is watch. And when you watch, all you see is me giving this guy money, giving him more money, not getting money back. That's it. That's the facts. Now I can say he's a con, he's a thief. Yes, that's all true.
Right.
Okay. But the fact was I gave him money, it didn't come back. Everything else is interpretation. So now I can sit back and instead of accepting and beating myself up and blame, which is what we tend to do, if we make bad decisions, we blame ourselves. Well, blame sets us in concrete and doesn't allow us to move. I now can sit back objectively and say, what was my role in it? Not the blame I had, but my role in it. And my role in it was that I got involved. I ignored my rules. I ignored the voice in my head. And now you sit back and say, all right, I know now my role. What were the lessons in it? So the lessons now is what gave rise to all my investing rules, all the criteria and all the things to make sure that no one else has something like this happen again. So as expensive as it was, over $1 million, there was a lot of goodness that came out of it. And from that, because until I was willing to accept the role that I had, there was no way I was going to heal from it.
Right.
And
it would
this
likely
is what
show up
happens
again.
with us. Yeah, it'll show up again.
Yeah.
And so within 18 months from that point, not only did we recover what was lost, I tripled it.
Wow.
And so, but to contrast it, the other two guys, one of them went into bitterness, resentment, and spiraled out of control, destroyed his marriage, destroyed his business, and ended up drinking and destroying his liver. Now he's finally coming back from it. And so the stories impact us.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with them, especially if we're living into the story.
Yeah. There's an awareness, though, that has to happen first, right? Like even the moment that Jeremy showed you the picture, I'm not a parent yet, but I would imagine most people would have reacted the same way where it's like, oh gosh, that's how he sees me. But for you to even have that awareness of like, wow, there I am behind all these computer screens. It's not a picture of us playing ball outside.
Mhm.
Wow, like that's big, right? To take that personal responsibility, to have that awareness of the stories like you're talking about, to have the awareness of basically at the time you were in 2005, you were then presented with a path where it sounds like the one gentleman maybe went down kind of to the, I'm going to curl into a ball,
Yeah.
the storm is going to be here. I'm going to blame, shame, victim. I should have, whatever. And you chose the other path, which was towards action, which it's interesting. I actually just put a post up yesterday talking about how we can't let the result or the lack of result dictate our action, right? And of course, I was talking about it in more like a social media way. It's like, oh, you didn't get any
Yeah.
likes, so then you don't post tomorrow. It's like, well, then that's the result you're going to continue to get. So I just love how you sort of took it on and said, I'm gonna brace the storm. I'm gonna weather the storm. I'm gonna fight it. And if you didn't, like you said, we wouldn't be here today having this conversation. This is your second book, which,
Yeah.
I'm sure will be impacting thousands and thousands of people. The speeches that you give, the keynotes, all of it. I mean, the way that you've impacted my life and Mike's life is just huge. So I'm so grateful for the awareness that you had many years ago to say, wait a minute, I'm gonna make a shift here. I'm gonna change something and I'm gonna take what I learned, even if it was painful, and I'm gonna turn it slightly into my purpose.
You know, what triggered there for me is this idea. I think why did I have an awareness? And I think that there's this fundamental premise that I have about, or philosophy, I guess I have about life, is that I have agency over my life. I have I have input and control over my life. And I don't know where that came from. I
Yeah.
don't know if I was raised that way, because I have an identical twin brother who doesn't have the same necessarily perspective. So I'm not sure where it came from, but one of my fundamental core beliefs is that if I don't like it, I still have the ability to change it. And whether that's idealistic or realistic, I don't know, but it's kind of the way I took things. I said, okay, what do I need to do? All
Yeah.
right.
Well, I watched you go through that exact thing when I met you. So I met you in 2020 and
Yeah.
you had just gone through your diagnosis for cancer. And, that's something that you still are navigating today. And we get good, clean shut up checkups and it's amazing. But that was something that you took on in the same way where I watched you like, okay, here's the fact. And this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to take control of what I can control. And for you, that was diet and health and exercise and making sure you were on your game. But I'd love to talk for a second how in that moment, because that was also right around the time when the world shut down. So now you're
Yeah.
dealing with your own personal trauma, you're dealing with this cancer, you're dealing with all these things. The world shuts down and you're seeing clients, loved ones, friends, peers, mentors, all of a sudden in turmoil when it comes to money. So walk me through kind of what happened in that season and how you started to see things differently.
So the money machine concept was born at the hands of Jeremy, he's a 6-year old. The importance of it was brought full circle into my life in starting in 2019 when the diagnosis came in. Um, I, not that anyone's a candidate, but I didn't have the risk factors of cancer. I wasn't a smoker, wasn't a drinker. I lived a healthy life other than a sweet tooth. No one in my family ever had cancer. And next thing I know, life is good. And then they tell me they find a tumor in my bladder that they thought was 5 centimeters, but it was 7.5 centimeters. And they're looking at me in a moment and said, prostate might have to come out. We might have to put a bag and tube in for the kidney. If if it's bad, you lose your bladder, and it's cancer. So your life's at risk. Your whole existence is at risk. And I'd love to say that I handled it gracefully at the beginning, but I mean, it was a Friday when we got the diagnosis. My wife and I cried pretty much all day Saturday, but then on Sunday we kind of said, "Well, we got no tears left. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
We're going to fight it." Now, the thing is that I looked at her and I said, "I'm going to shut everything down." I mean, I want to hit the cancer with everything I have. I have options on the table who to see, doctors and the best doctors and all of the things because of how we lived our lives financially. It allowed me to say, I'm going to shut things down because I can't imagine what it would be like to spend my days making a living and spend my nights fighting for my life. And I just said, my whole purpose completely shifted to beating this thing. The beautiful thing is that because of the lessons that came out of the Jeremy drawing and building the money machine, I could shut it down without financial risk. I fought the cancer physically, mentally, medically, psychologically, spiritually, energetically, but not financially. Literally stopped the business, stopped doing what I was doing, and then turned on the machine in a sense and told my wealth team, said, the money that is generated by the machine, send it to me so we can continue to live our lives. So it supported us. And the difference is this: it was creating cash as if it was earning. In other words, separating the earnings from the effort to allow us to live without draining it. So it wasn't like I had an emergency fund and I was just sucking it dry.
Right.
It was regenerating itself on an ongoing basis. The machine, actually the investment pool, actually got bigger during that time. Even though I was taking money out, it just didn't get bigger as fast as it used to.
Right.
So, but what it allowed me to do is to have the peace of mind to say, we're good. You're good. God forbid the worst happens, with my wife and my son and the grandkid, all of that. It's like, we're all good. So the only focus that I have to have now is beating this.
Yeah.
And no limits. Do I have to go to Germany? Where do I have to go? What do I have to do this? And that was the gift. That was the thing that came out of it, was the ability to sit back and say, I have choice in life. And I have options, and I'm not being defined by financial limitations. And
Yeah.
It wasn't the plan, obviously, when I started it.
Sure.
But it presented itself that way. And then you start to look at other elements, like imagining, you have an elderly parent that you want to take care of, or, you want to put a nephew or something through school, and to build that, and to have those options and those choices to give back. That's the gift of it.
Yeah. Well, two things are coming up for me. One, obviously, I want to break down this money machine. Like, how does
Yeah.
the listener build the money machine? What does that look like? And then two, for the person who, because this happens sometimes, is listening, going, must be nice. Must be nice, right? What I love so much about what you do, and this book in particular, is that you take this approach where it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your stage, it doesn't matter, like you say, the circumstance. It is possible for you to start building this money machine. So it was a gift that you were already prepared for that, and you had the machine set up. It's a gift for all of us that now you're teaching it to us. So can you break down what is a money machine, and then how do we actually build one?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I totally agree with you. I get it. There, some people might be digging out of a hole. So that doesn't mean that it's not possible. Like I said, I wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned, and I didn't come from money. So I want us to look at it through those eyes. No matter where you're at, the principles and everything will work. It just may mean that the hill you're going up is a little steeper. The boulder you're pushing is a little bigger, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it. And the fact that it's hard doesn't mean that it's impossible. And so with that, here's the way I looked at it, is that, and there's all this talk about passive income, and I think it's a fallacy, because we have a relationship with money. And just like any relationship, if you and Mike took a passive approach to your relationship, you wouldn't be married long. So my wife and I are going to hit 13 years. You cannot take a passive approach. So I look at it and say, what we're really looking for is leverage. We're looking for, how can I generate income and create something that generates income without my efforts, or as much of my efforts? And this is the whole idea, the subtitle, having your money work harder for you than you did for it. And at the very beginning, and how we're taught and how we grow up, we come into it with a one-on-one relationship. Put in your time, get a paycheck. Put in your time, get a fee. So you're trading hours for dollars. We all start there, and that's fine. But the problem is if you're not running the miles, you're not making the money. And that I learned quickly, especially as an accountant, because that's what we did. Timesheets. We sold hours. Horrible business model. Okay. So there's 5 income levels that you can earn from. I want you to build on 3 of them. Okay. The bottom we just talked about is active. The next up is business. This is where you leverage your time and you leverage what you're doing by having team members or other people doing things for you. In other words, you're bringing money in, so you're using the money to buy time back. These both take a lot of work still, and I still have both of them in my life. And those are the 2 things that I shut down when I got diagnosed because I wasn't going to put my effort in. There's 3 above it. There's 3 levels above it. And this is where I want us to play. The first level above it is what we call asset-based income, meaning that we're going to buy a piece of a hard asset, a piece of equipment, rental property, something that's going to generate income. Because here's what happens. We put the money in, we put a little effort in, but it is far less effort than the act of our business below. So now all of a sudden we're leveraging, we're getting time back, but we're getting cash flow.
Does the asset, does it matter if it's a, depreciating asset or an appreciating asset?
So the purpose behind it is to buy an asset that is going to give us, increase our net worth and increase our cash flow. Okay. So depreciating assets probably are not the place to go unless you're going to, like I have a client who they purchase, they're in the transportation industry for motion picture. So they've got, different cars that you see in the movies and all that. Now they're depreciating assets, but he's continually renting them and he keeps them up. So there's a cash flow that's coming from them.
Yeah.
And
so your own personal $150,000 car is not necessarily the best asset.
The G-Wagon's not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. But a house that you're getting rental property and rental income on. Got it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that doesn't work. There was a guy on TikTok that said you're better off getting the $200,000 R8 as versus the Camry. And I go, he says it's a transfer. It's a wealth transfer. I said, yeah, it's a wealth transfer to the dealer. I mean, it's the dumbest thing to do. So, all right. Okay. So appreciating assets. Asset-based. The next level of leverage above that is residual. So create something once, get paid for it regularly. My book, create it once. My first book, I still get paid on. Okay.
Show us that again. Show us that again. If the YouTubers want to see it. Yeah. There you go. Cover. I love it.
Yeah. So that's the first. It's the first copy I've gotten. That's the hardcover copy. So, it's so books, licensing deals, intellectual property. Maybe you do software or you have music or you have movies, all that stuff that you create could be a downline in a network marketing or direct sales organization. Mm-hmm. You build it and it's creating residual income without as much effort. Doesn't mean that there's no effort. It's just without as much effort. Okay. So that's the 4th tier. The 5th tier is portfolio. That's what we typically think about. That's stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, and that type of thing. So the money machine is the combination of the top 3: asset, residual, and portfolio, because it is what gives you your time back. And so the key is this: as you're working the bottom 2, making money, I'm in my job or am I on my career or I'm in my business, is that you are running a parallel journey to build the money machine. And that's kind of what happened with when Jeremy did the picture, is that I then started to use the income I was making. So I stayed living, and we lived decently well, but I kept making sure that I had enough to keep building that. And then I started buying assets, whether it was real estate, whether it was residual, whether it was portfolio, and building that machine large enough that I wasn't going to have to liquidate it and sell the stuff to live. It was going to generate enough cash flow for me to live on.
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of the way I want people to look at it. And what I'd love to see, what I want people to strive for, is to be able to pay for 80% or more of their lifestyle, their desired lifestyle, from the top three.
Ooh.
So right now, I'm paying 100% plus from the bottom two. But we're generating enough income from the top three to also pay 100% plus of our lifestyle. But we're reinvesting it, so it's just growing bigger and bigger.
Right.
And so while we're doing our work, we need to be allocating something to build our future. And it's the only way to do it. That's the only way to, and because the other way to do it is what we were taught, and it's the broken retirement system. Basically, say save, 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 save. Get to the point where you decide you're going to retire, which is a whole nother discussion. Reduce your lifestyle. So they tell you we're going to give you 70% of what you've made before, and then spend. And now all you're doing in those golden years of your life are praying that your life doesn't outlive your money.
Right.
But when you build the money machine, it's regrowing every year. It's generating the income that you're living off of, so it's not shrinking. Then I could live to 110. My wife would just like, oh my God. So, and it would still generate. And then the beautiful thing is that, God forbid I go, the machine goes to take care of Stephanie.
Right.
She's gone, it goes to Jeremy and Cammie, my son and daughter-in-law, and then the grandkids. It becomes a machine that can move generation to generation, as long as we transfer the skill sets before we transfer the assets.
Ooh, say that again.
As long, we never transfer assets without transferring skill sets first. So Jeremy, for instance, he doesn't get the machine just because he's blood.
Right.
He has to earn it.
Totally.
And he has to earn it by showing his stewardship and his ability to create his own wealth and understand the principles to navigate. Otherwise, it's going to charity.
Yeah.
It's going to a good cause. It is not going to go to create some spoiled child that sits back and says, I don't have to work. Dad's got money, so I'll just wait till he kicks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is likely why so many times when people win the lottery, it's a combination of they don't have that money mindset, they don't have those stories, but also if they don't have the skills, it's not their fault. There's nothing, people look at it as, oh, point, if I won that million or those 400 million, like I never would have. And it's like, well, you don't know that. If you don't have the skills or people that you can trust, like yourself, to help guide you, then you don't necessarily know where to put the money, or you just spend it, or you put it in funds that aren't making you money.
You don't, and everything can sound really, really good. You come into money, salespeople come out of the woodworks. It's one of the reasons I love the fact that I don't sell investments, I don't sell insurance, I don't sell anything. I just want to sell people on their dreams. I have no bias. I have no transactional thing that I'm trying to get to people and doing that. But that whole concept of skill sets before assets came about because of two boys that came to work with me. Two boys. I say boys. They were older. Their mom had just passed away. And at the time that their mom passed away, they were worth $5 million.
Wow.
Okay. And they said, we don't know how to do this. We don't know what to do. And in my conversation with them, I find out that their dad passed away 5 years earlier. 5 years earlier, when dad passed away, the family was worth $180 million. They wiped out $175 million in 5 years. Bad investments, theft, embezzlement, bad advice, not knowing. We spend a lot of time saying, how do I build wealth? How do I build it? How do I acquire, achieve, and accomplish? How do I pass it on? but we're not giving them the gift of the skills to handle it. It's like sitting back and saying, hey, kid, you're 16, you just got your driver's license. There's the Ferrari. It goes 210, let it run. They're dead. They're probably dead.
Yeah.
And so we need to give them the tools. And we don't have the education isn't there. We're not supposed to talk about it. They say there's a new study out that says 72% of people are stressed about money. 22% say it's extreme stress. So if 1/4 or 3/4 of the population are stressed about money, and then they tell us don't talk about it because it's impolite, something else, how we solve it? Well, my belief is we talk about it. And the book is the opening volley. I think that everyone, no matter their age or stage, their birthright is financial freedom. We have to go claim it. We have to give them, equip them to do it. And the easiest people to equip is our youth. The more difficult ones are the ones that have had a few years under their belt, but it doesn't mean it's impossible.
Yeah. And I have to say it again, like this book that you wrote, it's not only just approachable, it's like joyful to read. There's nothing dry about it. There's nothing intimidating about it. Like truly, I'm not just saying that because I love you. It's so easy to read. I'd love to hear your perspective on the idea of like start before you're ready. So someone who's listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm bought into this idea. I want to fill those top 3 brackets, but like, do I do it if I'm currently in debt? Do I do it if I can't put in a lot of money? Like, when does someone start?
Yeah, I love this. This is a great question because I get it a lot. So the first thing is this: your ability to build wealth is more associated with your habits, your choices, and your behaviors than it is your money. Okay. So what we want to do is, if you just think about going to the gym, wealth creation is a muscle group. Debt management is a muscle group, but they're different muscle groups. And the tendency is for a lot of commentators will say, get out of debt before you do investing. I understand that concept because it gets you out of debt faster. But that's like telling the guy to go to the gym and just work the upper body, not the lower body. Looks great until he puts shorts on. Okay. And so what I want people to do is I want you to start wherever you're at, because the idea isn't about the amount. It's about the habit. And so even if all you could scrape together is $5 a week, $20 a month, I would tell you, do it $20 a month, put it in a high yield savings account. What you're doing is you're exercising the muscle. And then if everything else is going to pay off debt, that's fine. But we do it at the same time.
Right.
Because now I'm exercising both muscle groups and I'm getting into the habit. And what you'll find is this tendency to gamify it. Oh, I put $20. Let me see if I can get to 25. Dear friend of ours, Colin Boyd, we had a conversation and he started down this path, and he sends me a text one time saying, we've got like 80,000 put away. He says, I'm actually kind of liking this. It's kind of like a game to me,
Yeah.
And I think that the challenge is that we think it's complicated. We think it's hard. Forget about where to invest it for now. Let's just exercise the muscle and let's put it in a high yield savings account. You're going to get, right now, you'll get 5%. Interest rates aren't coming down anytime soon. They might have a decrease, maybe September, maybe November, but there's a possibility there's an increase. It just depends what happens with the economy. But I'm not worried about what you earn on it, because the one thing I know is you won't earn anything if you don't put anything in there. So we got to put something in there. So start wherever you're at. If it's $5, if it's $10, we do that. When my granddaughter was born, my first granddaughter and the second granddaughter, $500 we put in the account. Every week, $25. So $100 a month. Going to do it for 20 years. So by the time she's 20, I will have put away a little over $20,000. Then I'm done. My job from 11 years old on is to educate her, to equip her, to skill her up. Now she allows that to grow. By the time she's age 60, she's already got $1.5 million.
Wow.
And I did it for a cup of coffee a day.
That's
But we
crazy
don't
when
talk.
you put it into that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And so and can I do more? Yes, I can do more. Will I do more? Probably. But the point is to create an environment that I can teach, just like I did with Jeremy, to teach them, equip them, and educate them so they can be. One of the greatest gifts we can give to our children is to give them the ability to be financially independent. And the second greatest gift that we can give them is that we become financially independent. Because if they are and we are, one thing's for certain, we're not showing up on each other's doorstep saying, I can't afford to live. Can I get the couch?
Right. What are some ways that parents can show up? You know, you said when she's 11, I can kind of start teaching her these skills. Even when they're younger than that, even when they're 3, when they're 7 or 11, what are some things that parents can do just in the household, even subconsciously, that are, you feel, helpful skills for kids to see and to witness?
So in the book, I actually have an appendix that's conversation starters for our youth. So there's a segment of conversation starters for young kids and then teens. And there's also another appendix for conversation starters for couples. Because I think that having real conversations is important. Here's what I think we can do is one, what we're trying at a really young age, we need to play games with them. But the games, the way I would do the games is to gamify the process of what money is, finding value in the money, but based upon the values you want them to live. So when Jeremy first started, I said, you're going to get paid, but you're only going to get paid. And I called it a commission. I didn't call it an allowance. So you're part of a household, and there's responsibilities to be in this household, but there's other things that you can do to earn income. And when you earn that income, here's what I'm going to do. I want you to give some away. So you pick the charity. So we're going to give and be generous. 2, you'll keep some to pay for your lunches, pay for some toys, whatever you want, and you'll invest some. And so I just started putting some money away and teaching him and just having the conversations, and then saying he started to get a chance to see that. Now, as he got a little older, we opened up a Roth IRA for him. So he had a custodial Roth. And what I went and I said, for every dollar you put in that Roth, I will match you. And so now all of a sudden he says, wait a second. And because I wanted him to see the growth and all of that, and then talk about the possibility. And what I was trying to do with him is to reduce the impact of the peer pressure, the immediate gratification, to sit back and say, and this is the challenge that we all live in today, even more so than in the past because of social media and access, is that we tend to spend on momentary pleasures based on temptation. In other words, our emotions got involved and we made a buying decision. Emotions go up, buying, financial intellect goes down. So one of the first things to sit back and do for anyone, young and old, is to ask yourself, what are the actual long-term sustainable joy points of life? My wife and I love to travel. We don't travel cheap. Okay, we're not flying on Spirit Airlines. I hope there's no one from Spirit on here, but but the point is that that's a joy point for us that we know is a priority.
Right.
Now, I am not exempt from this. I am on Instagram. I bought $300 worth of shirts off of Instagram. I don't even know if they fit. Okay. That's the kind of thing that we're dealing with. And what happens is that we go into debt. And so especially the youth, I listened to Patrick Bet-David, and he made this comment. He says, when we were growing up, and he grew up not far from me, where I grew up, and he said, the comparison set, he called it, was the kid that got the new bicycle. And that's what we kind of aspired to, get the new bicycle. He says, but the comparison set today is Kardashian's new jet.
Yep.
And what it's doing is it's changing things, because what we haven't given our kids is the perspective of living life their way, and what do they actually value. And they're trying to take their own self-worth, their own self-value from comparison to others, which is setting them up for disappointment and challenge down the road. So I think that we have the opportunity, with giving them some financial independence, to allow them to have choice, but to instill values in them so they understand how to do that. And everything. Jeremy's now 34 years old. His wife's 30, 2 kids, 3 homes, and a multi-million-dollar net worth. And I started working with him at 10 years old. And I did things that a lot of people is like I even brought him to when I was meeting with my advisors. He went to the meeting at least once a year, not to understand how much we had, because it was more important that he understood the thinking behind it,
Sure.
the reason behind it,
Yep.
than the numbers behind it.
Totally.
And now he's fully independent. He's fine. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need my machine. He doesn't need anything.
Yeah. It's just incredible. And what you were saying before too with social media, I think so much of it is, it's not really our fault, right? Like the way that the human brain is wired, we are looking for villages. We are looking to be a part of something, because as humans, it's survival of the fittest. And newsflash, we don't really do very well alone. So when we are looking at these things on social media and we're seeing it and we're comparing and we're sizing ourselves up to other people and keeping up with the Joneses, when you have the awareness, of course, you can check yourself and be in control of what you can be in control of. But the monkey brain goes directly to that place of sort of like, okay, I'm not enough. I need more. I'm going to get left behind. So there's a level of it where it's like, it's not fully our fault. And we talk about this with business all the time too. We're blindly following other people's goals. You wrote a book, I have to write a book. She has a podcast, I should have a podcast. They're on this platform, I have to be on this platform, right? And it's like, just because other people are buying things or doing things or putting money in certain places, we have to be really mindful. We get to become really mindful of what we actually want. And that's what I hear you saying. It's like, what does your freedom life look like? What does money for you look like? What does the machine, what do you want it to bring in for you?
The first part of the book is, so the first part of the book is understanding the journey. But the second part is defining the journey, your journey. Not like, there's this, what I call expectation association. There's like, you started out as a teacher. People expected you to do certain things on this career path as a teacher. And then you turn around and go, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. And how many people looked at you and said, are you out of your mind, Jess? What are you doing? You went to school for this? You're educated for this? This is what you've got experiences? What are you doing? And so what happens is that there's a whole host of people that will live into those expectations and not answer the call to step into the gifts that they were put here to give to the world, I think.
Yeah.
And I understand it, but at the same time, I think it's important for us to look at it and say, what does my life look like? Just because mom and dad did it a certain way, just because your brother or sister is doing it a certain way, just because other degree recipients did it a certain way, is this your journey? And if you at some point say, I think my journey, I want to, like, there's a friend of mine that she was a copywriter, but her heart was being tugged to write a novel. She's now on her 3rd novel, but she's fueled, she's energized, and she feels like she's on path. I'm educated as a CPA. Lord knows, I have no desire to be behind a desk, picking and tying, doing tax returns. I want to be out there helping people build their dreams. And unusual for accountants, I actually like talking to people. You know? And Jess actually even had me dance a little bit one time on stage.
I did. I was able
Called
to
me
get some
out.
dance.
Oh, it was awful. I was probably bright red.
Well, you threw me shade. I was gonna throw it right back at you. No, you were a good sport. You came up and danced with me. Let's chat about the book real quick. Where can
Yes.
people find it? Who is it for? How do we get our hands on it? When's it available? Tell me everything.
Okay. The book formally comes out June 11th. Okay. At all the booksellers, whether you're in Canada, UK, Australia, US. They can get it by going to yourmoneymachinebook.com. And why go there? Because it'll help you get to the booksellers, but it also will give you access to some special gifts and bonuses that will accelerate your path to support you on this journey that are totally free, to help. Because I when I wrote this book, I was intentional to write the book, like you said, in a way that reduced the obstacles, made it accessible, gave people a simple path to follow that was proven. It wasn't theory. It's what I've done in my life and my clients have done in their lives, and do it in a fun, engaging way. So the book's going to be part money philosophy, part money mindset, part money strategy, part money action items with processes and frameworks and tools to follow. Here's the other thing that I just decided to do, is I realized for everyone, if you buy the book, that's really good for Jeff Bezos and me. It might get me on the list and put a few bucks in his pocket. He doesn't need the bucks. If you read the book, it's going to be soothing, promising, and take up your mind space. But if you do the book, it's going to change your life. And so what I've done is I actually created a companion workbook, a companion action guide that once the book is released, for those that purchase and put their information in for the other gifts, I will send you the action guide, because my job isn't to get you to buy the book or even read the book. I want you to do the book because I know it'll change your life. And that's really how it's going to go. June 11th, it comes out, but our journey starts on June 11th. That's just the starting line.
Look, you might not know Mel yet, but if you're in my world and you listen to the DVE podcast, you know how much I love worksheets, workbooks, frameworks, charts, and to-dos. Mel is like the supersized, enhanced version, Mel version of me. I'm telling you right now, the guidebook to go along with the book is something that he should be selling, because it's absolutely incredible. And it's the thing that is going to get you to move the needle. I would love to do something fun for our audience members. So if you're cool with it, I would imagine you would be. I would love to buy 10 copies and give out 10 different copies to audience members for whomever screenshots this episode, shares it on social media, and has to share. You can't just share a cute picture. You have to share something that you're doing, an action item. Maybe it's you working on the workbook. Maybe it is an aha moment from the episode. Maybe it's something that Mel said that got you thinking differently. And of course, you have to tag Mel and I both. So where can they find you on social media to tag you?
Mel Abraham 9, the number 9.
Mel Abraham, the number 9. And of course, I am Jessica DeRose. Share it, tag me, the first 10 people. I will send out 10 copies of this book. This is a book that I want in everybody's hands. I think maybe we'll even do a book club. Maybe we'll do a July book club with this book.
So here's the thing. I got something for you also, because I wrote a book club guide too.
Ooh.
So I have a book club guide for you that everyone will also get if you want to run book clubs, but it literally tells you some of the questions you ask for each chapter and how to set it all up.
Ooh, okay. I'm definitely going to run a book club guide then, or a book club, I should say, because you're giving me the guide. So that's amazing. Where can people just learn more about you if they want to hear you speak, work with you, any of the other things, pimp yourself out?
So my website's melabraham.com, and then I have my my podcast and YouTube show, which is the Affluent Entrepreneur Show.com. Just because it has the word entrepreneur in there doesn't mean it's not for you. And we may retitle the show after the book launch anyways. But it's really how to live a good life, and what to do financially that makes sense. Like I said, I'm not biased by I'm not trying to build a book of business and clients in the financial planning realm. I'm not trying to sell investments. I just want to give you real conversations. And that's what the show is all about.
So good. And you're all over the place. Mel Abraham, you can find him anywhere. It's MELABRA.
ATM.
Yeah, AM. Okay. I'm like, wait, I drew a blank. Yes. So we'll make sure we put everything in the show notes for you. You'll have the link to the book where you can get Build Your Money Machine. You can see all Mel's amazing resources that he has, and find him, of course, on Instagram to follow along with the cute little doodles. Everybody loves the doodles. We've got 2 sheepadoodles.
My sheepadoodles. One's sleeping behind me. The other one, I'm not sure where he's at.
They don't do much. They don't really help with the money machine.
No,
just emotional support.
They're cute though. They get a lot more views than I do on socials.
Yeah, they do. That was my favorite reel recently that you put up with, was it the puppy? It was the puppy, right?
The puppy, it's Samson. Yeah.
Jason, yeah, like I own 3 homes and da, 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 like, let me teach you how. So good. So good. Mel, thank you so much for taking your time to be here. Thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you for just showing up the way that you do with such a big heart and teaching all of your powerful wisdom that you have had and built over the years. I adore you. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh my God, Jess, you and Mike are just dear friends and souls. I am so blessed to call you friends and have you in my life.
Love it. All right, you heard it here first. Get your copy of Build Your Money Machine, How to Get Your Money to Work Harder for You Than You Did for It. Share on social media for a chance to win one of those copies. Make sure you get into all Mel's resources, follow him on social. And if at the very least you don't do any of those things, I'd say set a money date with yourself and just start to look at some of the things that you have going on, because you can't fix what you don't look at. Right? Mel,
Hey.
thanks so much for being here. As always, friends, cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.